Welcome to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Shade Curry, and I believe every divorced woman deserves a romantic relationship where she feels safe, loved, and cherished. You can create the most amazing life after divorce, and I will teach you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I have another friend here to tell us her dating after divorce story. With me is Kelly Schaefer, and Kelly is a business coach for people who are building concierge businesses. Welcome, Kelly. Please tell the listeners who you are, what you do, and what is a concierge business.
Okay, so I'll try to give you the short version. So the short version is I am a retired registered nurse that took her love of taking care of others, and I opened my own personal concierge business back in 2010. A personal concierge is kind of a fancy word for like a personal assistant in your house, your home, or in your business. Locally, it's not a VA, it's more of a PA. And so I started that business back in 2010. And in 2014, I had people seeking me out because I had to learn this crazy world called marketing. And people started seeking me out in 2014 saying, wait a minute, I see you all over the place in the industry. I see you here. I see you there. How did you get clients? How did this happen? How did you do your pricing? Yada, yada. And it just kind of naturally morphed into me coaching people in the industry. So I straddled two lines for years where I was still running my in-person business and coaching on the side. And in 2019, I decided to go full-time into the coaching business. And that's where I am now. I am the creator of what is called the Concierge Academy, where I help helper businesses, personal concierges, personal assistants, senior concierge to help more people in their local communities. And in that, they get to make more money, have a greater impact, and get more clients. And I'm also the author of the book called The Concierge Life.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. And even as you described that business, I was like, oh, I thought about doing something like that, like right after my divorce. And I was kind of like, I've been a stay-at-home mom for a really long time. And I was like, oh, now what do I do? I actually nannied for several months during that period. And I'm sort of looking for something that would help me stay home and still be with my kids. And I eventually just kind of went back to my old career of working in IT full time in the corporate world. But yeah, I remember thinking about something. I didn't know that was the name for it. It was a concierge business, but I was like, I can help people. I can, run errands or whatever. So
Exactly.
I'm sure that is like a thing that, stay at home moms or whatever think about sometimes when they want to branch out.
Yeah. And a lot of my team, I built a team of 8 employees in under 5 years. And most of the women on my team, they were all women, but most of them were either stay-at-home moms that like their kids got a little bit older and they were having like this empty feeling, like my kids don't need me so much anymore. And they wanted to fill their days like that, doing the things that moms get really good at. Or I had other people who were women who had retired and were like, I still have so much to give. I want to be of service to my community. And those were my employees too. So it was really fun.
How fun. All right. So let's talk about your relationships. You have now been remarried, I believe, 18 years?
Yes, 18 years. It'll be 18 years in June.
Yeah. So, you're like an early success story because generally for those of us who've been divorced and we're looking for that healthy relationship after divorce, it's like we want one that's going to last and stand the test of time. So let's start at the beginning of your story. Like, why did you get divorced in the first place? What happened there?
Oh boy. Okay. So I got married in the year 1999. I got married and I had a child in 2000. And to be completely honest, the day before I got married, my mom said to me, you don't have to marry him. And I said, I know, but everybody's going to be showing up tomorrow. And I got married despite all of my gut my intuition, everything telling me that he was not the right person. The reason why us together was not a good thing. He had manipulative tendencies. He was truly narcissistic, not the narcissism that people use. I mean, that word gets thrown away around a lot today, but he was truly narcissistic. Oh, goodness gracious. He was verbally abusive. He was, he would manipulate me into like not going out, staying home, because if I quote unquote tried to, he would have a lot of things to say. He used a lot of verbal abuse, mental abuse, and eventually that ended up becoming physical abuse as well, which was the reason why I effectively left. So we were married. We got married in 1999. My son was born in 2000. And when my son turned a year old, I had to call the cops on him because I had gone out with a friend that night. It was the first time I had gone out with a friend in over a year. And he followed me to the bar. He followed me home from the bar. He started a fight. He picked a fight. He came after me. And I went to reach into the pack and play to pick up my son. And he made comments to me about, you're not leaving this house with my son, kind of thing. And at which point he took his arm and shoved his elbow into my face, broke my nose, and I had to call the cops. So this is probably not the story your people are used to hearing, but
well, it's a lot of people's story.
Yes. Yeah. It was really, it was intense. And it was in that moment. And there had been episodes before that were leading up to that. He put me in a lot of financial debt. He would literally go out and take my credit card and rack up and just go buy things. I accrued a ton of credit card debt. And so he went to jail that night, and then he got out of jail, and I tried to have him removed from the household, and he tried to countersue, and it was a hot mess. There's so many details that you don't want to know, but let's just say it was a hot mess. So that was 2001 when, so we'll say we separated in 2001. I was still living in the house because when he moved in with me, the house was in my name. The mortgage was in my name because he often did not hold down a job. You know, it was a lot of all the fun stuff. Yeah.
And it's whenever you've taken a step back and you're out of that situation, like when I've taken a step back from my first marriage, it's kind of like, how
was I thinking?
And you look at it and you're like, wait, I had the house and I had good credit and I had a job and I had money. And then this person somehow, I let this person come in, assume that the house is theirs, rack up a bunch of debt without contributing stuff. And what do you think you were thinking then? Like, we ask ourselves, what was I thinking? But we were thinking something. Like, I know what I was thinking. And I did a whole podcast episode on what I was thinking at that time.
I don't know. I think I probably lacked self-love. And when I met him, he had this afterwards. Now I can see it's the schmooziness about him. He was very schmoozy. And he was also, there's a term for it, like a chronic liar. So he would make up.
That's a good word for it.
Right. He was a chronic liar. He would make up stories. Right. So he was working. I found out later when I found documents in a briefcase that he had been fired from his job 6 months before. He had money, which he obviously did not. He had this. And at the time, when I met him, the schmooziness was all about like, he poured all this like love on me, bubble baths, and
Mm.
let me rub your feet when you come home from work, and all these, just like, I felt like, oh my God, there's men like this that will treat a woman this way. And I was pulled in. And then
Yeah.
it started to quickly unravel.
Yeah.
And when we met, I already had a daughter from when I was a teenager. So I had been a single mom for years. So when I met him, I want to say my daughter at the time was, oh gosh, like 12.
Okay.
12, I think 12 or 13 when I met him. 12, I think, when we met. And yeah, so I had all my shit together, and then I had this person come in, and I knew, like I said, I knew the day before I got married. I think he was actually out that night. I found out he was out, and he was using some illicit drugs at the pool hall, from what I was told. And yeah, and I married him anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I like your answer of like, it was a lack of self-love. I like to phrase it as self-value. Because it's sort of like if you have a precious vase that's worth, I don't know, $1 million, we treat it differently than we do our colander in the kitchen. It's kind of like separate. And so when we don't see ourselves as the precious vase, we allow ourselves to be treated a certain way. And when we see ourselves as not being as valuable, then we allow certain things. So that's a really good answer. I appreciate you, sharing that, because part of the dating journey, a lot of it is building up that self-value so that you don't tolerate behavior that, you don't want to tolerate. So how did you approach dating after the divorce?
Yeah. And what's interesting is, and I just want to add this, I had been in a cycle of not good relationships, even before that. So when I had my daughter, when I was a teenager, that was a physically abusive relationship. Then I was later in a relationship, and that person cheated on me for months. And then I was in another relationship, and then they were okay for a while, actually. And then I met this person that I did marry, and then he was like a combination of all: the physical, the emotional, the mental, all of the verbal abuse, all of it. And so how I stepped out into dating after that, it's interesting. I think I just by nature, I'm somebody who likes fun. And by fun, I just mean like go out, dinner, dancing, movies, light shows, just fun, like connection.
You're not an introvert.
Right? Yeah. Like I'm not necessarily an introvert. I kind of am. There is a part of me that is an introvert. But there's a part of me that's a very outgoing. And so I dated a lot without an intention for it beyond just dating. And I think that was the easy thing for me to do. Like I didn't go into dating again. And I started dating relatively soonish after the divorce. And I still was carrying a lot of divorce. Well, when I left him, I was not divorced. So that's another whole play. Because he refused to divorce me because he wanted control.
Sounds like
he still wanted to have, yes,
a lovely co-parent.
He wanted to control. Oh, but he wasn't co-parenting either.
I know.
He wasn't actually around, and he wasn't giving any child support, and he just refused to divorce me so he could control me, right? Because that was his way. He was controlling.
There's that sense of ownership that men like that have. They think you belong to them.
Correct.
They own you and know you. And if I can't have you, no one else can.
No one else can. Or at least I'm just going to make life living hell for you. Yeah. So I had started to date. And for me, it was just, I'm just going out to just have fun. And it wasn't even from like, some people think like having fun has to include sex and all that. And that wasn't about it for me. I was like, I'm just going to go out, just have some fun, meet some people, see who I meet, without any intention or attachment to it being more than just having some fun, and just see what happens from that. And then how I met my husband, who I did marry, is I'll never forget the day I was still working as a nurse, and I was on my nursing unit, and I just had this really weird sense come through me. Now at this time, now I have 2 children, 2 baby daddies, neither of them getting child support, neither of them being supported, neither of the dads, so to speak, quote unquote dads in their lives. And I'm technically not divorced because this person would not allow and sign for divorce. He just refused. And so here I am going through this dating for fun. And then I kind of had this epiphany that I just decided that no matter what happens, I am whole and I am healed. Whether I marry again or not is irrelevant, because I did believe in all reality that I had, quote unquote, some baggage, right? 2 kids, 2 baby daddy, yada, yada, as I just described. And so there was just this moment of realization that I just decided I didn't need to be married to mean anything. I did not need to have a reliable father in my children's lives, that I was enough as myself.
Wow.
And I think when I decided that, the universe shifted. And literally within weeks, I met my now husband.
Yeah. That moment you described there, that's where coaching is always, that's where we're always trying to point our clients, is to, no, you're enough. Like all of the thoughts and the feelings that we're always helping them sort of adjust and investigate is to lead them to the conclusion that like, no, you're okay. You can do this. You're fine. You're loved. You're valuable.
Yes.
And it's always when that moment happens that the result that they come to us for shows up.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you get there? Were you on a journey to get there, or did you just say, oh, I'm done. I'm ready to get over myself, which it happens many different ways for different people.
For me, it was literally like that thought just was given through me divinely, spiritually, however you want it. That's what I mean. Like I was at work. I was literally at work. I'm not thinking about, getting married, not getting married, dating, not dating. I was at work. But I just had this like huge just belief that like, it was almost like God above just poured the belief into me. And I just stood there for a moment and I was like, you know what, no matter what happens, this dating thing, because I was just dating, right? And I was dating for fun. I was like, no matter what, I am completely whole. Yeah. Because I also knew that I would no longer accept a man that did not treat me the way that I wanted to be treated. And I think I needed to go through the dating phase to decide how I really wanted to be treated, the type of man that I really did want, that would be the right match for me.
Yeah. What does it mean to be whole? So like, if you take out, okay, and like you alluded to, a lot of women will be like, oh, when I'm married, then I'm whole. When I have this, then I'm whole. When I have this money, when I have things that are external, what does it feel like to be whole inside? Like just, how do you look at the world when, I have my own description for it, but it's something so internal and personal for each person.
Oh my goodness.
When we're pointing the way to our clients to like, hey, here's the thing you need to get to, I want them to hear it like in so many different ways. Do you wonder exactly how divorced women just like you are meeting eligible men who want a real relationship and a commitment? They're doing it by dating with their core values. Your core values are the GPS that lead you to the partner you've been looking for. When you use your core values on dating apps, text messages, and at social events, you will easily connect with your true match partner without chasing, settling, or wasting time with non-committal men. I have taught exactly how to do this in the 2-hour Core Values Dating Blueprint course available on my website, shadecurry.com/dating. That's SADECURRY.com/dating. You will learn exactly how to identify your core values and use them on your dating profile, how to ask the right questions via text, and how to tell the right stories on dates so that you attract the right people and repel those who aren't right for you. If you're ready to meet your true match, hop over to shadecurry.com/dating or click the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode.
I think I just decided that, especially when it came to marriage and a father for my children, is that just internally in my heart, in my chest, I just felt like wholeness, just felt like there was no absence of anything.
That's so good.
That having a husband wasn't going to make me a better human. Having a father for my children would not make me a better human. It might make parenting easier, right? Or it might not make parenting easier. But I think it was that it's just there's not an absence of.
Yeah. You weren't less than, there was nothing missing. I think I've seen those words, the nothing missing. I love that.
There's nothing missing.
Yeah. For me, it feels different ways, but one of the ones I think came on early on after my divorce was whatever happens, I can handle it. It was just, whatever happens, wherever this goes, wherever the kids and I end up on this post-divorce journey, I just knew that inside of me, I could handle whatever life threw at us, even though I didn't know what life was going to throw at us. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
You build a resiliency of self-trust.
Yeah, 100%. So good. All right. So you got the download, felt whole, the heavens parted.
The heavens parted. Oh.
So tell us how you met your husband.
Oh God. Do you really want to know?
Yes. We want all of it.
Okay. So I met my husband. So at the time I was a registered nurse at the time. My husband at that time was a resident. He was doing his general surgery residency. So he was a doctor. He was a resident in a teaching hospital. And I had a patient who had a leaky chest tube who I had to call the doctor on call. And Dr. Schaefer said, "Did you need surgery on call?" And I said, "Hi, Dr. Schaefer. I have a patient in blankety blank blank who needs blankety blank blank. Can you come up and see him?" And he said, "Sure." And so I had a type for men up until I met my husband, who was not my type.
All right. So what type is he?
Okay. So my original type was like tall, dark hair, blue eyes, like the kind of guy that could like pick you up and throw you over his shoulders, like bad boy, right? Obviously, like motorcycles, you name it. That was my thing. My husband, God love him. So I made this call and the doctor on call, and he said, "Okay, I'm coming up." And I said, "Okay." And we had these very long hallways on my nursing unit. And I was all the way at the far end of where he was coming from. And here he comes, the earth, the skies parted. And this nerdy doctor who was so skinny, he weighed like $165, 6'1", so skinny, and his floofy hair and his big Coke bottle glasses. And he literally comes walking down the hall in his long white jacket down the hall. And I thought to myself, I kind of like, I kind of put my head to the side a little bit and looked at this lanky guy coming down the hall. And I thought, is that Dr. Schaefer? It's kind of cute. And he came down, and the rest is history. Dorky Dr. Schaefer. And I just we hit it off.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I love it. What a story.
Yes.
And so
And
God, so it's almost like your brain shifted. And I talk about this with my clients when we talk about attraction. Like when you shift your mindset and you shift kind of like what you're embodying in your emotions, you literally change what you're attracted to.
yes, he was so not my thing. And yet there was something I just literally, it was like we zinged in that moment in this
Mm,
weird way. And I tilted my head to the side and I was like, he's kind of cute. In like this very nerdy, dorky, like skinny way. He was
yeah.
not the kind of guy that could pick me up and throw me over his shoulder. That's for sure. He is now though, which is fascinating because
Right. It's not always what we think it looks like.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
So how did it proceed? Like, because there are a lot of women who are like, hey, there's this cute coworker and there's me. And he's the one for me, but he doesn't know it. Like, how do I get him to know it?
Well, what's funny is, so I didn't know he was the one. Like it just became like, we just mutually immediately sort of started to flirt.
Mm,
And I was the type of person, I say what's on my mind. I don't hold things back. And he was kind of attracted to that sassiness in me.
mhm.
And one day, again, so we're sitting there, I was away on vacation. Of course, he's flirting. He's like, oh, you look so tan, yada, yada. Where were you? I was on vacation. And then I was like, oh, do you want to see pictures? Because this was back in the day when you used to actually have a camera and you would print pictures. And so I had these packets of pictures at the nurse's station with me. And I was looking at these pictures and he's like, oh, who are those kids? And I was like, oh, they're my kids. And he was like,
Mm.
oh, you have children. I was like, I do. I've got two. And right, one was 2 and one was 13, I think she was at the time.
Mhm.
And so we just mutually just were flirting in the funniest way. And we just we just couldn't stop flirting. That's what it
You were like, right,
was.
this train has left the station.
The flirting just happened. We just kind of flirted at work a little bit because we didn't go outside of the work or anything. He would, and it was like innocent flirting. And one day a coworker of mine, she literally says to him, she tells me later, I wasn't there. She tells me later, she's like, look, Doc, you either need to shit or get off the pot.
It's getting too hot in the nurse's room when you come in. You can't work.
She was just like, you got to shit or get off the pot. You going to ask her out or not? Stop messing around. And he was like,
Wow.
and he was like, well, I don't, and he said to her, I don't know. She's got kids. And she turned
Mm.
around. She was like, look, she's not looking for no baby daddy. She's got this all figured out on her own. She does not need you to
Mm.
fill that role. You can either ask her out or you can keep sitting there lingering and longing.
Mm.
And
Wow,
he
I'm gonna
did.
steal that.
Right. And he did. We kind of decided we met and then I was like very uncomfortable. So then we met at
Mm.
like a group setting kind of thing. And that night we just hit it off and we have literally been inseparable since then.
Wow. So what were your thoughts the whole time this flirting was going on? What were you thinking? I mean, you didn't need a guy. You weren't necessarily like looking for a guy, but you were enjoying this flirting. Were you thinking, oh, I'd like him to ask me out. I'm going to ask him out. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
I don't even know if I knew at the time. I think also there was a part of me, right? So he was a doctor, right? And I was a nurse. And I mean, I know it happens a lot, but like, is this a right fit? Is this a good match? And, I don't know. And,
Mm.
there was a lot of, I think that kind of in there. And, I think at the time I was just along for the ride of the flirting. I was like, the flirting was just
Right.
good enough. Like
Yeah.
it didn't need to be anymore. And then when he asked me out, that is when I had the like catch my breath. I don't know. And then I was like, okay, but let's get together as a group first. Cause like there was this like, I don't know, trust thing. And
Mhm.
what's he going to expect? And then we're completely open to each other. And
Yeah.
And from that moment on, we've been inseparable. Well, except for a small brief period of time.
Yeah. Wow. That's so beautiful. So how did you get over? Because you were like, I don't need anyone to parent my kids. I got this. But you ended up creating a family together. Did you have to
Yes.
change your mind around him being a dad to your children?
Yes, most definitely. And we actually laughed about this. Maybe it was even on Valentine's Day. We laughed about this. He was like, "Do you remember the first time I told you I loved you?" I was like, "I don't actually remember the first time you told me you loved me. All I remember is I completely shut down and I was like, I'm saying nothing. My mouth is sealed. I'm not saying it back. I don't know yet."
Yeah.
Because this was a bigger commitment than just dating, right? So everything was fun up until then. And then so our dating was getting, we'll say, more serious. And what's fascinating, and the thing I want to say that I think will be valuable for your listeners, is when I decided that it was almost like deciding I had enough love in my heart to bring him in and my kids, despite being all the hurt that I had had in the past. And again, it wasn't just from the person who I still technically was not divorced to, because he wouldn't give me the divorce, that person, but also these other line of bad relationships that I had chosen up until that point. And so it was just like letting him in small pieces at a time. Like I let him in, and then it was like allowing him into like the parenting and into being part of our 3 group, now being a 4 group, right? Yeah. Me and the 2 kids and him. And so the thing I wanted to say is that was the thing that he said he fell in love with the most about me, was my spunk and my sass and all that stuff. But it was that despite how hurt I had been in the past, that I was willing to trust, to love again.
Wow.
And so he reflected that back to me, and he said that to me, that my ability to still be open and still be willing to love was the thing that he was most attracted to.
Wow, it's so good. And I think we all need that. Like we all need to be willing to, wherever we've been up until today, to say,
yes.
Yeah, I'm willing to believe. Yes. I'm willing to believe, I'm willing to try, I'm willing to, and it wasn't, he saw that, he was attracted to that, but you did it for you. Yeah. And I think we all need to just love ourselves enough to give ourselves that second chance.
Yes, because love is the greatest gift in the world. Why would you want to not experience that again for yourself, no matter what love looks like for you, whether it's in a marriage again or dating, right? So, and I think it evolves, right? So for me, letting love in was just letting fun back in the beginning with the dating. I didn't have to be serious, right? And then being willing to, despite everything that had happened before, being willing to try it again anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. When I used to go to church in Oklahoma, which that's a whole story. One of our pastors his parents had gone through just a lot of tragedy in their life. And he said, one of the things that I admired the most about my parents is that they had this phrase they were always repeating, is where there's life to live, there's love to give. And they just it was like a mantra with them to help them kind of get out of their own grief and continue to serve their community and serve people in their lives and hold their marriage together and everything. And I was like, that's just such a powerful powerful statement.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long have you been married now? I think I got the number wrong in the beginning.
Yeah. No, it'll be 18 years in June.
18 years in June.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Are you so glad that you like opened that door to 18 plus years?
Yes, I am. I am. And so even, our road to marriage was like slightly not the normal path because still married guy, so that was a little bit of a
How did you get him
trial.
to sign on the dotted line and get you divorced?
Oh God. So the way he actually signed on the dotted line was because he wanted half the house that was technically not his, but it was considered quote unquote marital property. But because of the debt that he had racked up 40 some $1,000s in debt, and he was not seeing my son and he was not paying child support. So I hired a lawyer, and basically she presented him with the fact that I would assume the marital debt. I assume all rights to the house. He has no rights to the house. He does not assume any of the marital debt. And he signs over his parental rights as a parent. And that he would never have to go to court, never have to pay child support, anything. And he agreed to that.
Wow, you set yourself free.
Yes.
And you paid the debt.
Paid the debt.
Sometimes there's a price to freedom, but it's so worth it.
Yeah. And so he agreed. And what was, again, so not conventional, I ended up pregnant with our first child and was still legally married. And then the moment that the divorce papers came in the mail, she was born in February. The divorce papers came in the mail in March of 2004. And my husband and I got married in June. So our marriage was 17 family members and like 2 of our closest friends. It was 21 total people. And that was our wedding.
Yeah. It's not about the wedding.
It's so
as we've learned.
Yeah, it's so not about the wedding.
It's like not about the wedding. I mean, but what a gift to be around the people that mean the most to you.
Yeah.
As you start like that beautiful new journey. I love your story so much. I want to thank you so much for being willing to come on here and share so vulnerably and just kind of give the listeners a glimpse, and me, a glimpse into what it looks like 18 years down the line.
Yeah.
If we're willing to brave the journey and change and transform and keep reaching for the prize. So thank you for doing that. What would be your word of advice for women who are, divorced and dating again? And I know a lot of them can't picture what you've described. And I know that, it was hard for me to picture it. It was sort of a journey for me to get to the place where I pictured it enough to be able to reach for it. What would be your advice for them just about that journey?
I think kind of like my journey was like, at that time, I couldn't have foreseen what I have now. It's just what in your journey, what would be the next step? Just being willing to take that next step. So for me, it was to date again without any expectations.
Yeah.
That's what I felt. And I'll use the term safe enough to do at that moment.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe seeing marriage is not available to them yet, but seeing dating and being open to that first.
Yeah,
is the first step, and then you figure it all out after that.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh, that's so good, Kelly. And for anyone listening who's considering dating as that first step, I do have a free course that's linked up in the show notes. That one's free. You can be like, okay, the very next step is just to get this free course that Sade has. Let me see what's inside of it.
Yes.
So you can consider that as a first step. Kelly, thank you so much for your story. Please tell the listeners where they can find you. Remind us what you do again, and tell us where we can find you for anyone who wants to start a concierge business.
Yeah. So I can be found either at theconciergeacademy.com is my website. On socials, I am the Kelly Schaefer. And I also have a pretty robust YouTube channel that's the Concierge Academy that gives all kinds of insights into how to start a business like that. And I want to thank you, though. Can I thank you?
You can thank me.
I want
Thank you.
to thank you, not just for letting me tell my story, but thank you for the work that you're doing, because I know that my ability to navigate this is probably not the norm. I have a lot of friends who have been divorced and they are still holding on to a lot of hurt from that divorce. And I want to thank you for the work that you're doing in the world, because women deserve to be loved and to love again.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. Yes. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We hold up. I don't know. People say we hold up half the sky. I'm like, I think it's more than that. Thank you for being on the podcast today. Your story resonates. I want to encourage everyone listening. Kelly's links will be in the show notes. So please follow her on social media, support her business, recommend her business to others. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time and attention. And I will see you next time. Thanks for listening today. If you are ready to get married after divorce, I want to invite you to download my free 8-video training specifically designed to help divorced women date with ease and get married again. Head over to sadecurry.com to get started. That's SADECURRY.com. I'll see you inside.